How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on BTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenurian.
And Vorcel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week that was, the week that contained nothing worth talking about, really, to be quite honest. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesbtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesbtw, or you can join us in our Discord server. You can easily get there by clicking on the link in the show description underneath this video, or alternatively, you can go to vtwproductions.com and click on the logo, No Excuses logo on any of our recent show posts. It will also take you to our Discord server where you can chat with the hosts and post terrible Digimon memes and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's sort of the call of the week this week, isn't it? It's terrible Digimon memes.
Or, Bloomberg memes, if you're me.
Well, I mean, the memes make themselves there.
I mean, you're just never short on Bloomberg memes.
Anywho, on the stream today, I'm playing a bit of Star Trek Online, which is about the only thing I actually got to play this week.
Wait, what?
Yeah, my brother convinced me to stick my face in and have a look. Because this game's been out for 10 years now, apparently.
Yep. It's been out for 10 years and they have managed to keep it running.
Yeah. Even though you don't have Leonard Nimoy anymore, so you can't do any more voiceovers for that. I'm not sure what they've actually done along that lines, because Spock in the Star Trek canon is still alive, sort of.
Wait, what?
Well, he's technically still alive, I think.
Didn't they reboot that canon?
Twice. Except nobody likes reboot Trek. So, Star Trek Online, when it first launched, it was kind of a mashup of everything up until Deep Space Nine, and now they've added in Discovery and whichever the one before Discovery was. The one with Archer.
I don't know. I am not a Trek person.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one called Voyager or something?
Voyager was in there with Janeway, who is the best captain, by the way, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise.
I don't know anything about Star Trek.
Yeah. It is very kind of cringy, because a lot of the time, like, problem of the week, if it was Kirk, it was, let's either fight it / have sex with it, or if it was Picard, it was something deflected-ish. And that's how they solved every problem.
What's a deflected dish?
It's the thingy that generates the shield. So apparently, it can generate shield, and it is also the God particle in the Star Trek universe. So, I don't know. So, yeah, the game itself is its perfect world, so you already know what you're in for here. It's pay to win to its limited degree, at least. And they'd like to do that annoying thing where you you play the game and you pick up all these loot boxes which you need to open with money. Otherwise, they just clutter up your inventory.
I wish that people would stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, the surefire way to get me to never spend money on your game is to constantly press me to spend money on your game.
Yeah, like if I have my inventory, here we go, I've got 4, which can go straight into the replicator to become T, presumably. Yeah, unlike what they did with Champions Online, where they just bought it and then forgot about it, mostly. Actually, Champions Online, they released some new content last week. 1 new questline.
That's not a lot of content. Do they have literally one person working on maintaining that?
I think so. Maybe one programmer and 1 artist, because they're constantly releasing new costume bits for you to pay for. So yeah, when they purchased Cryptic, they kind of got Neverwinter, Champions, and STO in a bundle, and they just neglected Champions and put everything into STO, and particularly into Neverwinter. So yeah, if you're leveling up, you can fork out, which I actually apparently did at some point, because I've got a rather decent starship. You can fork out early for a starship, which supposedly levels up as you do. But in the early game, even though it is a lower level version of that starship, it is still ridiculously powerful for just about anything you hope to do. I'm told that once you get up to max level, they're pulled into line. But for leveling, nah. They're ridiculous. Especially considering a lot of the store starships will have a unique aura buff that they have, and usually some variation of unique weapon attached to them as well. So, yeah, fork out money is what they want you to do. I have no idea what I'm actually going to be doing in the game today. I could go and do the terrible ground combat, or I could fly around in space and do some of the surprisingly good space combat.
Tinker with your deflector dish.
Tinker with my deflector dish. I actually do have emergency power to shields, which is that. It's basically, here you go, have all your shield power back. Yeah. So the space combat, they basically ripped off Starfleet Command. The games you can't actually buy anymore because they were made by Interplay, and Interplay kind of played large, fast and loose with just about every IP they had. Starfleet Command 3 was really, really good, but it was only out on the market for maybe a month before they got sued and had to recall every copy. And that was the end of Interplay. The ground combat, though, when I played it when it first came out, it was a buggy, unbalanced mess that really wasn't a whole lot of fun. Now, it is a buggy, unbalanced mess that's really not a whole lot of fun. So, yeah, they haven't touched the ground combat at all.
Are there people who actually like Star Trek for stuff that happens on the ground? Like, I thought it was a spaceship show.
It is a spaceship show, but they tend to do stuff on the ground quite a lot. In the case of Kirk, he tends to get people killed, particularly people wearing red shirts.
I don't know. I'm not really a connoisseur, but it seemed like their away missions had even worse acting than everything else. Was the impression that I got. Well, I just don't have a very high opinion of Star Trek in general. Like, my impression of it has always been that it's just kind of bad.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. It's always been very kind of cheesy and a little bit goofy.
Ultimately, I don't much like the setting. Mm-hmm. Like that sort of bizarre, supposedly post-scarcity world where, you know, the entirety of humanity is sort of united into one sort of gelatinous socialist mass of people.
Yeah,
like, I don't particularly buy it.
The insistence that their setting has kind of evolved to the point where nobody needs to worry about finance and currency anymore, except for the time when they do.
I don't buy it, and I think that's because that's not human.
No,
I think that they don't behave like people, and that bothers me. And so even if their acting is good, I still see it as bad acting because of what they're acting like is inhuman to me.
That's bad writing in a lot of cases.
But I hear the guy that actually wrote all of that stuff was like utterly obsessed with the sexual habits of the alien species that he inserted into the galaxy.
That explains an awful lot about Kirk, then. Yeah. I mean, he flew around in a spaceship that was made, no joke, out of a few toilet rolls and a couple of paper plates glued together. But somehow he managed to get laid all over the place. I don't know. At least when once they moved on to the next generation and kind of kicked, I think it was Roddenberry, out from the primary writer's role, it settled down a fair bit.
But I expect nowadays they're all having a competition to be more woke than the next.
Yeah, they are. Like, you've got the new series which kind of took a detour down woke street and nobody likes it. Like, when they did... Yeah, go on.
I've just seen every single YouTube personality ever talking about how terrible Star Trek Picard is.
Oh, yeah. It's particularly Star Trek Picard.
Yeah, from what I've heard about that, which isn't much, Picard just isn't cool.
He's really not.
That's what it boils down to, is that, like, he was never supposed to be cool, but he's even less cool now.
Yeah, he's supposed to be kind of overly stuffy, but very professional is his kind of thing, but no. Like, people didn't like Discovery because it kind of hung around on the corner of Woke Street. But, yeah, Picard's gone zooming straight down it. Also, Discovery has apparently a really stupid plot.
Yeah, I haven't heard anybody say anything particularly nice about Picard. It seems to be a case of, like, they took a character who the only direction you can really go with him is to make him suicidally principled, but instead of being principled, he just sulks when he doesn't get his way.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. That's why I like Janeway the best. Janeway and Cisco. Because at least they act like human beings. Cisco even has a sense of humor, which is unheard of.
Yeah, I remember watching Next Generation when I was like growing up. It would be on at dinner time or whatever on Saturdays or something like that. But I never felt like I was particularly attached to any of the characters because they felt roughly as realistically written as Transformers.
Yeah, was this before or after they introduced Wesley Crusher, God of the Universe?
I don't remember. It was too long ago. I mean, you know how old we are, so it was at least 25 years ago.
And that's not a good thought. Yeah, they really kind of phoned it in with Next Generation once Wesley Crusher started becoming the absolute ultimate Mary Sue. I know there's probably someone who's out there who's more versed on Star Trek than I am, and they're probably screaming into their, Starfleet duffel bag or something by now. But, screw that.
Yeah, because I gather that there's basically law in that fandom that you have to think that either Picard or Shatner are just, what was Shatner's name? Kirk. Are just the best ever, and you've got to be super partisan and take a side on this, or something like that.
They're really not. Like, even Archer. If you look at the character alone, Archer was very human and flawed, and he kind of had the whole space cowboy thing going that Kirk did, but he was human. He'd make mistakes. He was out there and learning things, and he would actually develop as a character. Picard and Kirk really didn't.
I didn't think Kirk was quite that bad. I think that the problem with Kirk was that, well, number one, he couldn't act back then, and number two, his character was centered around being a doofus.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we would conceive of as a doofus, a guy who didn't think at all except when he was thinking with his short sword.
Yeah, he did that an awful lot. I guess I gotta go do this quest. So yeah, we could go on. Well, maybe not for Star Trek for a while, but the debate over who is best captain is basically an ongoing war at this point. Except there's a few hard and fast rules, and that's no one likes Burnham, the new one. The what's she? She's from Discovery.
Is she a diversity hire?
Maybe. I mean, okay, she's an alright actor, but the character has all the personality of a block of wood. And yeah, apparently Kirk in some communities is a sacred cow. Instead of, just cow-shaped.
I'll be honest, I think Denny Crane is cooler.
Alright, so yeah, I'll just play a little bit of this game. You'll see for yourself just how awful ground combat still is. Like, it's horribly balanced. Like, I did a quest the other day, which was actually a really good and, reasonably well written for Star Trek quest time, which involved actually having Burnham show an ounce of personality. Oh, in my random wanderings, I've just wandered back to Sol. I'm not sure why I did that.
What, like in Korea?
No, as in Sol, as in Earth.
Right, okay. As in our star system.
Yes, that's Sol.
Because, I mean, you didn't really give me much context. For all I know, they do visit Korea in Star Trek.
I don't know. Everywhere in Star Trek looks basically the same anyway. The inside of a warehouse with various props around the place.
Well, I mean, I actually went to a museum where they were showing the props for that movie which had the Borg in it.
The first one.
I don't know.
Yeah, the Borg keep popping up like a bad fungus.
I don't know, but at any rate, there had been recently, or semi-recently at the time, there had been a Star Trek Next Generation movie which had a lot of Borg stuff in it. And I went to the museum, and they had an exhibit showing all of the props that they'd used, and they were horrifyingly realistic. I tell you what.
What's really disturbing is a lot of the technology, particularly from the original series and Next Generation, the stuff that they use on Earth and a lot of the stuff they use just in on a smaller scale in space is stuff that's reality now. Take that. Make you feel really old when they were thinking that a mobile phone was ridiculously futuristic.
But guns haven't been replaced by remote controls.
Not yet. Not yet. Although, if Star Trek Online is any indication, they're going to go to remote controls and then they're going to go back to gun-shaped at least.
It's because the remote controls were dumb?
Yes.
They were dumb and bad and not cool.
Dumb, bad, and awful.
You got a license for that remote, mate?
No, beep.
It's license.
The license. But yeah, that movie was actually one of the really good ones. And I think that was the one where Picard joined the Borg and absolutely nothing really changed.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was always that sort, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a socialist. What are you going to do? The socialists basically want people to be the Borg.
It is the ideal.
But yeah, I saw the Borg Queen's prop, the one which is basically her spine.
Ugh,
like
yeah.
I got to see that up close from like inches away, and it was extraordinarily detailed.
That thing gives me the heebie-jeebies, that bit.
Yeah.
I actually did that quest line I mentioned earlier is a kind of a screw-up where you revisit an old Kirk plot line, except you've got 7 of 9 with you. Things go sideways and you end up in this alternate reality where 7 of 9 becomes the Borg Queen. And they just had to animate the spine wiggling around.
What is 7 of 9? Because I see that brought up by Trek people all the time.
She's the first human to be released and freed from the Borg.
I see.
She's a major character from Voyager.
Because I hear they forcibly brought that one back for Picard as well, despite the fact that it takes place in a different continuity.
Yeah. Also, because, Trekkies are... Well,
very prone to forgiving everything for a little fan service.
Yes, and unfortunately, Jerry Ryan... Look at it this way. In the game, when they have 7 of 9 wearing a Starfleet uniform, they've actually had to make a unique character model. Because nobody is shaped like Jerry Ryan. The game just does not support that sort of boobage. So yeah.
I see.
That's pretty much it for my week. Unfortunately, it's a very heavy week work-wise because I know I told Vol this, I didn't tell Ari. Turned on the everything and got set up on Thursday, and the very first phone call was, hey, we need you to drive 500-odd kilometers.
Oh, that's fun.
Why not take a plane?
It's government.
They have an airport in Mount Isa, don't they?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
They tend to break things a lot. Where am I supposed
I have to convert this to miles to get an idea of how long this took you.
You and your silly moon measurements. So it was about 6 hours of driving for his government job because they broke the train again.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, this time of year we tend to get a lot of really nasty storms, and in this case it managed to flip the lids off a train of ore cars. And those lids weigh a few ton on their own.
Oh.
So you had giant cast iron frisbees flying around the rail yard.
Yeah. Well, actually, thankfully it was out in the middle of nowhere, but it still covered the tracks in these things, and you can't exactly just, pick these up and put them back on.
Clearly, you're not trying hard enough.
Well, you need a crane. But that part of the terrain is also what we colloquially known as black soil, even though it's not actually black. Where if it gets a little bit of moisture to it, it turns to soup.
Right, so it's got a high silt and clay content or something?
Yeah, particularly high on the silt. It's everywhere east of here, which is where the train derailed, is inland sea. Back in the dinosaur times, that was at the bottom of an ocean.
I see.
So good times, good times. And beyond that, we also had this event, because of course we have a random event in the middle of nothing. But for a nice change, actually, the police went around and told all the pubs and things to close up early, and so when the street party part of the event closed up, that was it. Everyone had to go home before they got drunk and ruined everything.
This seems like a good plan.
Yeah. Except the following morning, people were complaining because, why'd they close up at midnight? After that's when the night gets good. No, that's when you get drunk and go and French kiss a light post.
How would they know if that's when the night gets good? They can't remember anything past about 11:30.
Exactly right. So, yeah, closing things down at midnight makes everything a lot better on everyone, but no, people won't listen to that. I have no idea what I'm actually supposed to be doing in this event, by the way. Just running around Starfleet Academy. Which is apparently in San Francisco.
I see.
Mm.
Well, I mean, it is a West. That show was a West Coast production. They do think that the heart of all intellectualism and culture is San Francisco. So
yeah. If I recall the little bit of Star Trek lore that I know, the very first Earth starport is Alice Springs. I mean, it'll actually give people a reason to go to Alice Springs.
This is did the Alice Springs Commerce Commission pay them to put that in?
No, I don't think so.
They wouldn't have been able to afford it anyway.
No, they wouldn't. I mean, if you're going to choose a place to put it, put a spaceport, you can't pick too bad there, I suppose. You've got enormous, huge, flat spaces of absolutely nothing.
Where the heck is Alice Springs in Australia?
Smack in the middle.
Oh.
So,
I see.
Yeah.
Usually they stick those kind of institutions by the coast so that you can ship parts easier.
Yeah, nope. You need a big old empty space of nothing. Besides, at that point they've got flying cars apparently, so, yeah.
Well, realistically, they probably put it there because they didn't know whether the ship would go up with the force of several nuclear bombs.
Yeah, that sounds more like it.
And they didn't really care what happened to Alice Springs.
And nobody cares. I mean, you've got the world's biggest rock, and that's the only thing in Alice Springs, or near Alice Springs.
That rock annoys me.
Because it's just a big rock.
It doesn't even have a reason to be there.
No, it doesn't.
That bothers me. Nobody seems to even be able to offer a convincing explanation for why it's there.
Yeah, it's just there. What am I honestly supposed to be doing here? Okay, apparently I'm supposed to be babysitting. No, screw that. I'm going to space.
There is sand drawing aboriginals are apparently an attraction in Alice Park.
I guess.
You can come watch the abos draw in the sand.
The sand drawing is more like drawing with sand, isn't it?
Yeah, it is drawing with sand.
They literally are in the middle of the desert drawing with their hand.
I know, sand drawing can be really cool when it's done right.
In this picture on Wikipedia.
Yeah. But anyway, that's been about it for my week. It's just been a very heavy work week. I haven't even really been able to look at Discord very much. Which is probably just as well, because Vol's carrying on about Russian boat waifus in fridges. Why?
Well, I don't really have a good answer to that.
Fair enough. I haven't even been able to really catch up on anime except for the only one I've actually watched this week was Isekai Quartet. There was something about that latest episode that annoyed me, and I can't figure out why.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, that's right. It's Naofumi's ridiculous overreaction. So I won't ruin it then. It's just completely and utterly stupid. But that's what you're there for with that anime. Alright, so Vol, let's really badly segue over to your week.
Well, I'm not really sure what I can say about my week. I didn't actually have too brutal of a week at work, but I can't seem to determine what I did with my free time.
That sounds about right.
I'm not quite sure what happened to it. In fact, I must have had some because I didn't end up staying too late at work this week. But I don't actually know what I did with all my time, and probably a non-trivial portion of it would have gotten eaten by mobile games because, well, I suppose the thing that looms largest in my mind about what happened this week was my disastrous encounter with the gacha.
That was painful to watch.
Yeah, right. No, I 99 pulls and got absolutely nothing. Well, I got Kiritsugu, but I never wanted him to begin with. Because, and not least because I don't have any more materials to raise more assassins, because I keep pulling assassins. But yeah, I don't. It was unpleasant, and honestly, I'd rather not relive the experience because this is the only banner which has what's her name on it? It's just disappeared from my mind.
Brain fart.
Fujino.
Yeah. If you were paying attention to what we were talking about, you could have jumped in earlier. But
I was trying to think.
It's literally the only banner that there has ever been for Asakami Fujino. And so I decided that I would at least, try and get her. But yeah, no dice. I didn't get her, didn't get Shiki, didn't get anything worth a damn except for a humongous number of mediocre to bad craft essences. So I guess it's going to make the grind easier. But
I guess
that wasn't really what I was looking for. Yeah, so I've got a humongous number of event CEs now, which, yeah, great, wonderful. The whole thing was extremely depressing. Anyway,
you got Fujino CE, probably MLB'd 4 times over.
No, I didn't get quite that many. I only got 9 of those. That said, I got 9 of those.
You only ever need 5. If that.
It's not cool. I'm not amused. That said, I did conversely got every single event limited boat waifu in the current Azure Lane event. Got all of them.
Nice.
All of them. So yeah, that's something, I guess, but it doesn't make me feel much better since Quartz is a way more limited resource than the cubes that you use in Azure Lane. And that puts me kind of behind the 8 ball on other things that I would like to pull. I'm probably going to end up whaling at this rate since all the banners that I want and I've been waiting for will come up while I've got no Quartz now. But that's the trick, right? That's the whole point of these bait banners.
That is what they do.
It's to try and trick you. So maybe I'll just try and resist. Unsuccessfully, probably, but I'll try and resist. So what else did I do this week? I played some more of Azure Lane Crosswave. It doesn't get any better, but gameplay wise, it doesn't really get any better. What I noticed is that the ratio of time I spent playing the game as opposed to watching the game tell me the story is about 1 to 10. It's really not about the gameplay, which explains why they put so little time into it. Well, maybe they didn't, but yeah, it's not the point really. I feel like maybe the difficulty curve will smooth out as you go along, and more intelligent play will be required. And there is actually quite a bit of tactical depth in there when it comes to assembling your team, because different combinations of boat waifus will confer different bonuses depending on what their various attributes are, which can range from anything from being from the same faction to whether or not they have ribbons in their hair.
That seems a bit arbitrary.
Some of them are very arbitrary, yes. But yeah, there's not really much to comment there because it's certainly not getting any better. But I like the characters, and I can't work out if the story is supposed to exist within the continuity of other Azure Lane media, because it doesn't seem to quite fit anywhere. It feels kind of like those early anime movies from Shonen series in that way.
Oh, okay, where they just kind of happen and then no one ever talks about them ever again.
Yeah, like that, the giant tree one of Dragon Ball Z and that sort of thing.
Practically all the DBZ ones fit in that hole.
Yeah,
most of them do.
With a few exceptions.
Especially that giant tree one.
Yeah, but I feel like there must have been something that occupied a great deal of my time, and I can't think of what it was. But yeah, I did a certain amount of looking around to see about getting a car because I kind of need one in a hurry. Our current landlord decided to be a bit of a jerk, become totally uncontactable around the time that we needed to contact him to discuss an extension to the lease. So the guy managing our lease eventually just got sick of getting strung along and took out a lease somewhere else and said, okay, you can all come with if you want. And so we're moving across town now. But while the distance by car to go to commute to work from the new place is about 5 minutes further away than my current place, by bus it's about 40 minutes further away.
Yikes.
Because it goes through the CBD. So there are no bus routes that go around it instead of through it.
You don't want to go through it first thing in the morning.
No. Yeah, rush hour in the CBD isn't a great idea. But I've been delaying getting a car for a long time, and this is sort of just going to shove me into it, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll have to get a license at some point. But
you should probably get that sorted out first. No,
it's not practical to. Like, how are you supposed to do a driving test without a car to drive?
Yeah.
It's nonsense. But
some driving schools will let you borrow a car for the test.
Yeah, I'm sure they want me to pay like $300 for it as well, like
that
everything else around here.
Right.
Yeah. How about no?
How about no?
It's not like I can't drive or anything. It's just a matter of arranging the test, and I need a car now. I don't need a car in like 2 months' time when I can actually get a test booked in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everything about actually getting a license is made as impractical as possible here. Like from the DMV style queues to the waiting list for lessons to the waiting list for tests. And
I know this isn't the sort of thing you want to hear, but you're getting the actual test passed can be a pretty daunting experience. It can even just be like your examiner's having a bad day, and that's why.
I have tons of friends who failed because the examiner just was in a bad mood that day.
Yeah,
it's just something you've got to deal with. Most people I know either pass the first time or just keep taking it sequentially until they do, because they usually don't fail for anything that they did wrong. So,
yeah. Is there a cooldown, I suppose, on it in New Zealand? In Australia, when I went through it,
no,
it was like
because
2 weeks.
because you can. I don't think there is, because you just have to pay again.
Yeah.
And they're happy to take your money as many times in succession as they can.
That sounds about right.
The whole thing is a revenue gathering exercise.
My mother will constantly tell the story of one of her friends who took their driving exam when they were 16, and the examiner asked him to go pull the car around, and so he did, and he failed him on the spot because he didn't have a license yet, so he couldn't drive by himself.
But you fail if you disobey an instruction from the instructor as well.
Yes. So you're screwed either way.
I do not know what the heck he was supposed to do, but That story gets told to me like at least once a year.
I think a certain examiner needs to be fired.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Americans like to tell stories about how legendarily inefficient their DMV is, which is
They've streamlined it now, at least in my county.
Okay, so it only takes 3 hours to get through it?
Well, what they do now is you go in, they tell you to fill out whatever form you need when you're at the DMV, regardless if you filled it out ahead of time, so don't waste your time doing that. And you do that on the computer, so you wait in the lines for the computers, and you hit submit, and it'll be active on their servers for 24 hours. And then you go over to a little kiosk, and you push a button, and it gives you a ticket with a number in it, and then you go sit down in, like, this auditorium area. And you wait for them to call your number, and they'll tell you what booth to go to when they call it on the little TV screens they got above the booths.
Yeah.
So that's much more manageable than literally wait in line for everything, get told you don't have the right paperwork, go to the back of the line after you fill out the right paperwork, and wait again.
Actually doing the forms digitally sounds like a massive advantage. Like, we've still got to do them on pen and paper.
Yeah, I do them on pen and paper as well.
And then they inevitably tell you that you filled out the wrong form, go and do it again.
Even if they're the one that gave you the form.
Especially if they're the ones that gave you the form.
So these are the people that the Democrat Party want running your healthcare system. Just FYI. The people that produce the DMV.
Would you trust the DMV as your healthcare service? Ask yourself that before the polls in November.
You'd be dead before the doctor walks in the door.
Well, I mean, that's what happens most of the time. Like, if you happen to live in Canada or New Zealand or Britain, a lot of people die waiting for healthcare. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, happens here as well.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm working on that, and then there's the move, of course, which is happening in early March, and well, I mean, there's a lot of subtleties that come with that, such as where is the router going to be, and will I be able to get a decent wireless signal? That sort of thing. This is the sort of thing I worry about daily, is my wireless signal.
It is important.
Yeah. But yeah. I'm going to next week. I'm also going to be going to the ophthalmologist to see if there's room to basically do a second operation on my left eye, because it's still not quite right. It's still short-sighted. So that will result probably, like, there's a chance that they can do LASIK on it. They can't do smile on an eye twice, but they only got the right one correct. So they can't do that one again, which leaves LASIK and PRK. If it's LASIK, then they can do LASIK. Then that will have a quick heal time, as most people who've had LASIK are familiar with. But if they can't do LASIK because the correction required is too subtle, then they'll do PRK, which is like the worst thing ever. Where they don't create a flap. They just scrape the front off your eyeball. And then just they do the adjustment and then just let it grow back naturally. Pretty much the worst thing imaginable. In the spirit of scientific inquiry, I'll probably take the drugs this time round. The happy pills that they give you to not think it's such a big deal to have somebody fiddling around with your eye, because I didn't take them last time, and now I want to see what the difference is for comparison's sake.
Okay.
So you almost had an anxiety attack while they were digging around last time, and this time you don't want to go through that, is what you really mean?
No, because I had no problem with it last time. Well, I'm very good at displacing that type of thing. Like the stress, like I didn't have any problems within the scope of my brain. Like I wasn't aware of anything because I just sort of displaced it. But I basically destroyed the stress ball that I was holding. I just wasn't aware of myself doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Something needs to change there.
Well, I mean, you have somebody stick a spatula inside your eyeball and see how you feel about it.
Yeah. No.
Thank you. I'll stick with the laser beam. Please, okay, thanks.
But yeah. So I was not bothered terribly much by it, but I'm kind of interested to see what feeling less bothered by it would be like. But Yeah, I decided it was unmanly to take the drugs the first time round, and I didn't, and it was an interesting experience that I had the fullness of my mental faculties to enjoy, and perhaps I won't enjoy it quite so much this next time.
Yeah, probably better off to be off with the fairies for that.
Yeah. Although I won't get as good of if I'm spaced out, I won't get as good a view of what's going on. So,
Is that necessarily a bad thing, though?
well, it was interesting. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime experience. That particular one, you can't even be performed twice, and it was sort of interesting seeing the laser create a spiral of bubbles in my eye and that sort of thing,
Ugh.
and then the forceps going in to extract a piece of tissue. It was interesting. I grant you that much. It wasn't very comfortable though. It's sort of like having a really, really, really strong itch that you can't scratch.
Yep.
Because it's inside your eye. So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to be looking at that this coming week, which will hopefully give me a couple of days off work to recover. If it's PRK, then it's probably about a week of my eye feeling like it's full of sand, which isn't great. But yeah, I want my vision sharpened up. Dang it! I paid good money for that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but no, and so I'm going to the ophthalmologist, and they're going to measure up the eyeball, and immediately after that, I'm going to test drive some cars. Except one of my eyes is going to be shot and unable to focus. So it's going to be an interesting experience as well. I've got somebody to assist me with that. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I was going to say, if you're doing that on your own, that sounds like a car crash waiting to happen.
Yeah. No, I've got somebody to do the hard stuff. I'll get him to take me to a parking lot or something.
All right.
And make sure so that I can feel the handling, but I'll get him to test the road stuff for me because my eye will probably be dilated, so I look like a crazy person on one side.
Yes.
So I'll have one pupil operating normally, and the other one will be like 9 millimeters across. So
no, I'm not. I don't think you're having a stroke or something.
Yeah, but it's not very pleasant being outside when you're like that. I'll have to wear shades all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think I did much else to speak of this week. Other than fiddle around with mobile games, I haven't been very dedicatedly going at the K&K rerun on FGO simply because I've done it all before, and the gacha pretty much broke my spirit. But there's still a challenge quest that'll need to be done, so I'll have to think about what my strategy will be for that as well. But when I first went through the K&K event, I had level 50 servants and not very many of them. And I managed to push all the way through to the end of the story proper, which I still feel pretty impressed with myself for managing to do. But it's sort of interesting now coming back with a full roster and doing the event again and seeing just how trivial those quests are from the point of view of somebody who's standing at the top of the tree. But yeah, it really sort of shows its heritage as being one of the earlier events when you look at the difficulty curve. But yeah. Anyway, I don't really have much else to talk about. Goodness knows I've stretched it far enough.
All right, that was pretty short.
Oh, well, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what
really nothing to say.
I didn't do anything particularly interesting this week that I can think of. And the game that I'm currently playing isn't good, so I'm not really going to talk about it as such. It's certainly, I certainly enjoy it. You can see that its heritage as a compile heart game. It has a tone that is quite similar in a lot of ways to the Neptunia games, and in fact, the main character Shimakaze, her alarm clock shouts at her in Nep's voice, like it's Neptune.
Oh, jeez.
Telling her to wake up every time her alarm goes off. It's just was surprising the first time it happened in the story, but it's sort of fitting given that company.
It sounds like a fresh layer of hell.
Yeah, it's it's a bit meme heavy in places. I get the impression that a lot of those memes were in the original script though.
Yep.
Like there's an entire sequence where Prince Eugen is wearing the Deal With It glasses, pixels and all. But yeah, and it's done entirely straight-facedly as well. It's not even a Deal With It moment. She's just appearing that way.
Right.
But, for the particular context, which is her she's not normally the straight man in any given conversation, but she plays one for that particular scene. So it's sort of fitting for her to change her appearance a bit. But yeah, anyway, I don't have anything to talk about. So moving on.
All right. We're still a bit early for a break. Ari, did you want to jump into it?
Sure. Sval got anything else?
Honestly, it just sounded like you cracked into a bottle of bourbon or something.
Me
No.
or Vol?
I don't know,
No.
whoever was doing it.
No, it's just my water bottle.
Oh, it might help with this show. So this week was the continuing of the MARTA disaster at work.
Yes.
I'm not going to post pictures of this because it's actually technically confidential company files, but even though they don't matter anymore. But I sent Vol, I think I sent to you too, Fern, the pictures of my MS Paint engineering.
Maybe? I don't think you did. It may have been lost in Digimon memes.
Oh, I think I only sent you the Digimon meme this week.
Yeah.
But so this week there was a bit of an issue, and we needed to stick this stupid drawing in, or get a drawing for, or stick the stupid pump in, and we could not find it. And we found something that looked kind of similar. We sent them last week that was in the ballpark of what we needed, that had all the right parts but not the right dimensions, and we sent that to him. That wasn't good enough, even though he said it was A-okay last week. So this week, I get fed up with everybody giving me the runaround on where these drawings are, and I just throw my hands up in the air and say, I'll do it. I will just redraw basically the exact same thing that was on the other sheet and get it to the dude, and just make sure the dimensions and the scale is appropriate. Now, I can't use AutoCAD for this. AutoCAD was made by somebody that was touched in the head as a child, that had major serious problems, making something usable for somebody that isn't an octopus.
A lot of people will try to disagree with you on that. They're wrong.
They're wrong. So I had to do my engineering in MS Paint.
Yay.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, what could possibly go wrong is I got it right, surprisingly, but it took 9 hours to edit a drawing into a workable point. And for some of these things, I had to go pixel by pixel, and I was using pixel measurements to make sure everything stayed to scale. Because I couldn't adjust the scaling. It was already set to a key. So I had to make sure everything stayed to scale.
So who did the original drawings?
My granddaddy.
And you guys just abandoned AutoCAD at some point?
No, we just can't find where the frack he saved this particular drawing from 1999.
Oh, so you were what, using an image file? You had been supplied an image file.
I had been supplied we found a basin that was very similar to the one we wanted right now, with just a few little things not on it. And I had annotated that drawing when we printed it to a PDF and sent it to the dude and said, this needs to be here. This is actually these are actually the correct dimensions, and struck through it with comments and sent that to him. And normally that works, and that's okay. That was not okay here. They needed the full proper drawing. So I had to pull up the kind of sort of similar basin and just start drawing on it in MS Paint to make it as close to as accurate as possible.
Given this is a government job, I'm assuming that they pulled this requirement somewhere from their ass.
Probably.
That's how
I
it
think
usually
it's
goes.
just the dude currently in charge of hiring the people that are going to make the basin is a little slow. he is not a smart person when I talk to him. So this was a horrible experience. And I had to come in late the next day because I had serious eye strain from my face being, less than an inch away from my screen, counting pixels and erasing and drawing one pixel at a time to make sure it's perfect and looks like I didn't do a drawing in MS Paint.
Y'all do have engineers on staff.
We do. They haven't been here for like a week. So I was actually really ticked that they weren't around this week and was tearing my hair out.
What do you think they're being paid for?
Supposedly to do stuff like this when it comes up, but they seem to be just playing on Facebook all the time when they are here or not here at all.
Yeah.
Salaried employees.jpg.
So I'm here working on this thing. I get it done. I send it to the guy. He's like, cool, that works great. And I'm like, I just did engineering in MS Paint. Get at me.
When it turns out that you put those ports too close together and the thing ruptures, you'll be in trouble.
Well, it's even worse than that.
Oh, no.
The next morning, I get a call. I had been calling Top Industries, a basin manufacturer, and does a whole lot of metalwork stuff other than basins too. I've been calling our supplier. I've been calling anybody that Granddaddy might have originally sent this basin drawing to, back when he was using it as a part of his active projects and the model number associated with it. And the next day, the guy that I just sent these MS Paint engineered drawings to sends me an email. It's like, oh, Top got me the proper drawing from 1999. It's all cool, man. Don't worry about it. I was beating my head on my desk.
Low.
Yeah,
I mean it. I had a bump on my forehead from how hard I was beating my head on my desk. I was not happy.
Just why do this, yo?
So that happened.
And
I was not a happy camper. But at least now I could say I did engineering in MS Paint. And I'm pretty sure if you tell that to anybody and you say you submitted that for a government job and it was almost accepted, that should make them worry about the government quite a bit.
Yes.
So
I don't understand people who don't worry about the government.
Yeah. They take MS Paint engineered drawings, people. And from non-engineers, by the way. I do not have any training in engineering. I'm just trying to copy what was on another page.
Admittedly,
I do have training in engineering, and that's exactly what we do. Like, given the tools that you had available, an engineer would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, if they without a method to easily import something into a better piece of software to handle it, I probably would have done that. Because like I'm not trained in AutoCAD. I'm only trained in SolidWorks. So unless I was able to import it into SolidWorks and work on it there, I would have used MS Paint.
Admittedly, during my days with the building firm, there were a lot of bits and pieces that came in that were drawn in MS Paint or really badly by hand. Like, the common one was for a site plan where people would pick up a piece of paper and say, yes, that's roughly the same shape as my block. And they would just use the edge of the papers as their property boundary.
Wow.
And we'd even have the occasional one which would come through and they'd have the paper sideways, even if, essentially their property is in portrait, their page was in landscape, and they'd just drawn it in anyway. Still using the edges of the property as the boundary. So you'd have everything kind of stretched out sideways.
So nothing would be to scale then?
Nothing would be to scale. As long as their measurements were correct. We would accept it, though. We could work with it.
It's not helpful, though.
No, it's really not. Like, suddenly, apparently, everything is living in the squash dimensions and things, but yeah, good times.
As one of the dudes, as somebody that has to work on the user end of this stuff more than the engineering end, I'm here to tell you drawing to scale helps tremendously.
Oh, it does. It makes things so much easier.
Yeah, when it comes to doing more complicated stuff like process and instrumentation, and then trying to lay that out, you need scale.
Yeah, like for example,
Yeah.
from those plans, it was okay. They've drawn this abomination. Now I've got to figure out where, in relation to what they're building, the sewer main goes.
Yeah, if I'm handed a drawing that's not to scale of a pump in a basin and a hole in the ground in a sewer main, and all the diverter valves and pipes coming off of the thing, you know, it helps if I know where to put the Lego pieces by looking at the drawing and how big they're supposed to be.
It's
Because
the reason you
I'm
don't
looking at
actually
things
try.
like Lego.
You don't actually try and build something from a process and instrumentation diagram. You've got to do the actual layout, and the reason for that is that you need scale. You can't do it without scale. Is
Yeah.
that you can build any amount of different tanks and pipes and pumps and instrumentation and so on and so forth, but if you don't know how big they are, you might end up, setting up a whole bunch of stuff that can't fit on your site.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you draw that thing to scale and you do stretchy stuff, it's going to be like, okay, there's supposed to be 2 diverter valves here, but according to this drawing, only one will fit.
Mm-hmm.
We've had this situation with not to scale drawings before, where I've had to be like, don't worry about it, it'll fit.
Yeah.
I've literally put this exact same thing in with 2 diverter valves before. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. The best one I've actually had was when I finally figured out exactly what they're doing. It's a case of, oh, you want to build this shed right in the middle of an access easement. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You can't do that, for reference.
yeah.
It's like building a shed in the middle of someone else's driveway.
So
Essentially, that is exactly what they were proposing, by the way.
oh me, oh my. But yeah, that was my big work event this week. The rest of it was a little bit of prep work for taxes and just continuing to answer questions about this stupid MARTA job and getting a few small jobs out for the rest of the week. This MARTA job has, yeah, I make fun of Mike Bloomberg, but that wasn't at work. Actually, yes, that was at work because I post all those memes on my lunch break. So yeah, it's become a daily tradition to go on the Donald and find the funniest Bernie Sanders or Mike Bloomberg meme and post it in our politics board on the Discord, which you can join by clicking the link in the show description.
Yeah,
So-
it gets a bit memey in there. Just be warned.
So, yeah, that was work. Whenever the day was over and I was just waiting on an email or on phone duty, I would play a little bit of FGO, and I've been chipping away at the K&K event, and I did a big marathon push yesterday and today, and I'm up to 73-ish missions done out of 100, so we're getting there.
Not bad.
I'm approaching the home stretch. I had amazing luck with the gacha, but I had to throw money at it.
Yeah. Don't do that.
So I had some really good pulls, but I had to throw money at it. I sent Vol a picture, I think, of one of the pulls I did that was probably the best pull of my life in the gacha. That wasn't 2 5-star servants.
There is only one
let's-
word for that pull.
What?
Bullshit.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a thing. So I got a K-scope, another Francis Drake, a John CE that let me MLB the John CE that I have, and 1 4-star for Reen, and a garbage another 4-star CE. So 2 garbage 4-star CEs, but I got 2 5-star CEs and a Drake. Only one problem with that. None of those are Fujino.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw money at it. And I wound up getting another Shiki and 3 Fujinos on the money I threw at it after that.
Don't try not to tempt me because it is a limited, like a super limited one, and that's the
They're
the
not going to be
nasty
doing it
trick,
again
of
after this,
course.
aren't they?
No, they're in the next 2 years worth of history. They never repeated Fujino's banner ever. She's limited to event banners as well, so you simply can't get her anymore.
And that's how they get you.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
how they
need
go.
her. I'm not a big fan of the K&K the way Ari is, and I don't need Fujino. I just have to try and remember that.
So, and then I threw another ticket at the banner just for funsies, a few tickets at the banner just for funsies. After I got some from the quests, and I was trying to get to MLB my puppeteer because I wanted my Toko CE MLB, and I managed to get that MLB from a combination of last year's, if I had any, I can't remember, and the ones I pulled this year. I got that MLB, but I also got another copy of Saber Shiki, so I got 2 Saber Shikis. So she's MP5 now.
Oh boy.
And level 100.
Her Noble Phantasm would be absolutely absurd. If it doesn't outright kill something, it'll still probably just do a ridiculous amount of damage.
Yeah, it's more used as a debuff cleanse and a decent amount of damage. But now that it's MP5, maybe it'll hit. Who knows? We'll see. So I've been chewing through the K&K event. I'm making decent, steady progress in it. I was actually, while y'all were talking about Star Trek, I had that thing in my lap because I don't know anything about Star Trek. Yeah. And I'm making my way through that, and it's another event in FGO. I have been skipping the story to get through the event first, as I usually do with events, and I'm slow. I made it about halfway through Seraph when I was getting caught up in my events and rewatching the story of them. But yeah, I'm just paranoid that I will not have time or something will come up whenever I'm doing these events. And so I've just started skipping the story and saying, I'll do it later. I'll watch it later. Unless I just happen to have time and it's on a time gate when I'm doing it. So that's the K&K event. I played 2 tiny games this week. The first one I played was Bastion. And I had not played Bastion for like a decade.
It's not that old, is it?
Yeah, it's that old. Yeah. It came out in the PS3 in 2015, but I know it's older than that. Let's see. Bastion 360 release date.
I think it actually came out on Steam before that too.
I only played it on Steam, so
it came out July 20th, 2011, so 9 years ago.
Yeah, that's still old enough.
Really, really old game. So I did not remember anything about this game and had it sitting around in my Steam library, and I was just like, I never booted that up, and I don't remember a dang thing about this game.
You don't remember the buttery smooth narration?
No. But so got to listen to the stranger narrate the kid's life and all the mistakes I make because I accidentally fall off the map.
Yeah, he doesn't let you forget that sort of thing.
The kid fell to his death. Nah, just kidding.
Yeah.
Is there I have only of that line of games I have only played Bastion, but is there like a clear line of genealogy and style from like Bastion to Transistor to whatever the third one is called?
Pyre?
In terms of artwork, yes. Yeah, Pyre. In terms of artwork, absolutely. You can tell it's the same art team that does everything. But and the same type of that art direction going into the level design. You can tell that carries over as well. What doesn't carry over is the gameplay at all. Every single one of them is a totally different video game in a different subgenre, basically.
Well, I wasn't talking about mechanics. I was talking about style and presentation.
But yeah, you can tell it's the same team.
Yeah.
I like Transistor a lot. I played it the day it came out and thought it was a really, really fun game.
I did not like Transistor.
It's a hit or miss game. It's not like Bastion where pretty much everybody had a good time with it.
Like basically the combat programming is what you're dealing with there, and that's fun, but the plot didn't grab me. The whisper talking, it really annoys me.
Oh, the story in Transistor makes jack sense.
It makes no sense whatsoever, admittedly.
I'm going to coin Jack Sense as my new self-censor. But I had to go read the wiki after it to understand what the heck was going on. It's
something. Your girlfriend is a sword, or your boyfriend is a sword now. Reasons.
You're a singer. Your boyfriend's a sword, and go save the world.
Also, you're now a mute because we couldn't narrating the protagonist.
Yeah, can't have a player character that speaks.
Yeah. So here's some contrivance as to why you can't speak.
So most people, when I read around and get the general feelings of what Bastion was like in these days after I beat the game, they seem to be like, "Oh, the game was pretty easy," from what I remember, and most people haven't played it. And yeah, the base game with no idols is pretty easy, but because I'm an idiot and have to go and get the platy, it's not a hard platy to get.
Admittedly, no, but
well, it's not a long platy to get, but it's a pain in the butt because, and there's only because a bunch of the Chivos require you to have all 10 challenge shrines activated. If you remember, at some point, Bastion, you unlock the shrine and you can activate up to 10 gods, each with a special effect that'll increase your EXP gained and money drop rate and your score count in score attack mode by a fixed percentage, depending on how painful the thing it's going to do is. There is one shrine that makes the game that should just straight up add 300% to everything, because it is so much worse than all the other ones. It is horrifying. And it's the one that gives enemies a random chance to deflect any attack made against them back at you.
Yeah. That one's just cruel.
Any ranged weapon will wind up doing damage to you. Period. Is what this turns into. And it activates a good 20% of the time.
Yep.
And God help you if you go on a streak of deflects or you hit a bunch of enemies at once with the shotgun or something and all the shots will reflect because you're just dead. That's it. Game over. Try the level again. So that one shrine contributed to more grievances than anything else in the game. Everything else was super easy. But that one shrine just absolutely was kicking my butt up and down until I discovered the mortar is not affected by that shrine. So if you ever decide you're going to go platy Bastion because you're a crazy person and you want to go back and platy a game from 2011, use the mortar.
Really?
Because as long as you don't hit the enemies, as in don't land a direct hit, but hit the mortar shot next to them, it still does full damage, and they can't deflect it.
That's good to know.
And it took me until near the end of my run in the challenge missions to figure this out. So that was an interesting replaying experience. You got to run through the game twice, but the game is actually really short on your second run through.
Well, you don't actually. You can reload the last save just for the final bit to get the other ending.
No, it says you need to beat the game in New Game Plus.
Oh, that ending. Yeah, okay.
You got to actually have completed the game in New Game Plus.
Yeah,
and get a million
get the true ending.
Yeah, and get 1 million points in score attack. But score attack is just New Game Plus, but you start over from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So, and each level keeps a tracking high score, and you can repeat any level after you beat it. In the base game, I didn't remember this. You can't replay levels.
Oh, okay, I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, you can't go back to old stages unless they're challenge training grounds for a specific weapon. Those are the only ones you can revisit, and after you've cleared all the challenges and gotten first place, you can't go back to those.
Huh.
But in score attack mode, you can totally repeat a level as much as you want. And this makes the second playthrough way faster and way easier, like 3 hours tops if you're going slow. Because there are a couple levels where shards, your money, will literally just rain from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just do two or three back-to-back 2-minute runs of those levels and have 1 billion monies. And not have to worry about farming monies to upgrade all your crap. So that's that makes the second run go by very quickly. There is actually unique DLC for subsequent releases of the game after the original 360 release I didn't know about. There is a entire 30-wave super hard challenge mode that you have to beat for the platy, because of course you do. This just comes for free in this version of the game. So that was new.
Okay.
So there's a bit of extra content there. And yeah, it's still a pretty fun game, if a little clunky in some places and horribly unbalanced with some of the weapons, but it's an interesting game to go back and check out after a decade if you haven't played it in a while.
I feel real old now.
Yep. The other game I played this week that was tiny, because Bastion took me like 3 real life days of play to Platy according to PSN profiles, and I only played for like 3-ish hours a day on those 3 days. It doesn't take long at all to beat that game and get the Platy. The other game that I zipped through in about the same time frame was Sundered. I have tried to pick up and play this game like 80 times, but I just couldn't make myself do it. And the reason I couldn't do it is because it has the Dead Cells problem of it tries to be a Metroidvania, but has randomized elements in the rooms between the key rooms. And this design just doesn't work. Like, this idea of you can get upgrades to further explore places, but all the rooms are randomized does not work at all. And I wish people would stop doing it. Like, we have tried with like 4 or 5 games now, have experimented with this, and the closest one that came to success was Dead Souls, and that's the only one I've ever seen positive reviews for. And I don't like Dead Cells. Not very much. I've tried. I've tried real hard to like it. But it's two completely diametrically opposed mindsets going into the design. The completionist mindset doesn't work with what's defined in modern days as roguelite. It just trying to 100% something, and every time you load up the game, it being random, don't click together good. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, it baffles me that people are hyping on like this is a great thing, we need to keep trying with more games, because it just doesn't work. And Sundered exemplifies this probably better than any of them. Because the rooms are random, the trash enemy encounters are random, and so the loadout you need to get and what upgrades you need to go for doesn't matter. Because all you're effectively getting is keys with those upgrades, because you have no clue what enemies you're going to run into each run through.
Yeah, you need the consistency.
You can't plan your route. You can't plan what upgrades you're going to go get. And you can't decide how you're going to tackle the obstacles because you don't know what enemies are going to be between you and the place you're going. And this just drives me up the wall. These games are about planning and routing and trying to figure out, okay, where do I want to go? What do I want to get? How do I want to go through this place? Mastery of the environment is the name of the game, but you can't master an environment that's random.
Nope.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's some games that do have the random stage element, but generally, if you die in those, or there's no save points in them, you die, that's it. It's fresh run.
Yeah.
That works fine.
So in this one, when you die, you go back to start, and you can spend upgrade points on more health, more attack, passive benefits, or upgrading your active abilities. And equipping perks that you can get to drop that do things like your big cannon doesn't kick you back when you fire it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that, or you have further reach with your supers. And this compounds, and you keep any permanent upgrades you find while exploring the map. And it has a cool idea where you can either destroy the shards you get from beating bosses, which are big special purple shards, you can take back to the location you got the original permanent upgrade and supercharge that upgrade permanently to do some truly ridiculous things and encourage sequence breaking. Okay. Like you can get the the ability that makes you run on walls turn into, as long as you're on flat ground running at a wall, you can continue running straight up that wall.
That sounds just
That's
fun.
one. If you upgrade it, you can now wall crawl like Spider-Man. And you don't have to be running.
Okay.
Like, some of that stuff is really cool. If you upgrade the double jump, after your second double jump, can now glide. And this would be really cool if the map was designed in a way that was coherent and wasn't random. Because then you could make something where this is actually useful, and you could sequence break earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of cool ideas like that. If you choose to destroy them instead, you get a ton of cash money, and your passive stats get more that you can purchase. Instead of upgrading the permanent movement ability or utility ability, you get more stats. Stat spheres and their little sphere grid thing that you can put points into to make your passive stats bigger, and they give you a chunk of money. So you can get yourself higher level effectively. But because everything's random, you could get absolutely no difficult enemies between you and the area boss. And it won't matter what points you put into anything. Or you could just get mobbed, at which point you just hit return to Sanctuary and try again, because it's not worth it sitting there for 5 minutes to try and clear this pack of mobs that's just impossible and guarding the door. So, yeah. My distaste for what the new kids call the roguelite is growing quite hard.
Yeah.
I'm starting to really, really not like this subgenre. It just doesn't click with me. Some people love it, and I don't get it.
There are elements of it, and there are entries, rather, into the genre that are actually good. It's when they've managed to get a good balance between the random and actual meaningful progress. But very few games actually nail that. And what you end up with is some sort of either it's randomized in name only, really, or some sort of horrific randomized nightmare.
Yeah, and I don't like that randomized bullcrap thing.
Yeah.
It just does not make any sense to me why people would find that enjoyable.
Yeah.
I've tried. I have tried my bestest to give this subgenre a shot, and it's just not clicked.
No. There's maybe a small handful of games where it actually works and it comes good. Like Enter the Gungeons one.
Yeah, that one came pretty close, but I still got bored with that after like 2 days.
Yeah, it's because you only got a handful of rooms, really.
Yeah, I got bored with Binding of Isaac after 2 days. Like, these games can hold my attention for a day and a half.
Yep.
And then I'm just done. And as somebody that does not buy 50 bajillion games, play them for 5 normally, who likes to, at least finish and preferably complete the video game, this is a problem.
You've got a bit of Discord lad going on, by the way.
Oh, I opened up Steam to view something, so it's probably trying to download crap.
Oh, that's what... that would do it. Steam does not place nice with a lot of things.
Yeah, I was looking it up to refresh my brain on what roguelikes I'd tried.
Yeah.
So
it is a genre that there is a lot of bad entries in. Like, a lot of bad entries.
Yeah, I just do not think my brain can click with the genre the same way I know people can't click with the Metroidvania subgenre. Is not going to click with some people. But yeah, it's just... I've now given 3 or 4 of these, mixing of those two subgenres together a chance. And I can confidently say it doesn't work. At least not for the people that like the Metroid part of it.
I've got 200 hours in Binding of Isaac Rebirth. The original, probably another 50. Yeah, like Binding of Isaac is really good. But again, it's not for everyone.
Yeah, that one was okay in gameplay. I didn't like the theming or how the game played out at all. I thought it was just gross and icky.
Yeah, the theming is what turns off a lot of people.
And so I just, I did not ever stick with it for very long.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah.
What's other good ones? Rogue Dynasty was fun for a little while. Until you realise that they've only bothered to really make maybe 10 rooms.
Yeah. So, for Vidya games.
What did you say?
Yeah,
I didn't hear any of that.
That's because a YouTube video started playing by accident. I was trying to shut it up. I'm like, why is somebody talking to me coming through my headphones? It doesn't sound like somebody in the channel.
Your computer is fighting for bandwidth.
Yeah. So, that's it for the Vidya games I played this week. And both of those games were really short. Like,
yeah.
Each of them has a playtime of 3 days. If you go to my PSN profiles from when I got the first trophy to the last one, and I only spent like 3 to 4 hours a day poking at them. And they were mostly in the background while I was watching or listening to something else. So, yeah, I would come home this week and I would just be exhausted. The MS Paint Engineering Day particularly, I got home at 7 to 9 o'clock.
Heck.
And I got up at 7 o'clock that morning to go to work, so I was dead that particular day. it's just I don't want to adult anymore, man. I'm tired of it.
Nah. Gotta keep
I'm
it
tired
old.
of I'm tired of governments too. Can we fire the government? So, I guess that's it for what I did this week. I don't really have anything else. I've already stretched out what I do have.
Padding is fine.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else to stretch with, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is probably going to end up being a slightly shorter show, I think, today. There's just nothing.
Oh,
to
you
talk about.
you went and said the words.
All right, what are we going to tangent on to now? Anyway, let's. How about we take a break?
Yep, we will be right back after some music. And we're back.
And we're back. Again. I still have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's okay. We don't have any idea what we're supposed to be talking about. We checked the email box, right?
Yeah, we did. Nothing in there either.
I'm going to check again just to be sure.
Just in case somebody might have, had mercy on us.
No, I don't see it. I'll look under the promotions tab just to be extra sure.
Just in case. Yeah, it's been a very quiet week on the games front this week.
Yeah, not a whole lot happening.
Yeah.
There were talks about Michael Bloomberg, but there's that's about all that took over the internet this week. Is everybody from every side of the political aisle was making fun of Mini Mike.
Yeah, although admittedly we do have Blizzard running to cover their asses again.
What is it this time?
This time, it is a working build of StarCraft Ghost has been leaked.
Oh, yeah, I saw a little bit of that, but it sounded an awful lot like Anthem.
Yeah, but this was Anthem made in 2006.
Yeah, but it was still Anthem. Like, it's the same problem, the same scenario.
Yeah.
Except Blizzard was responsible in this case.
But Blizzard cancelled it.
Yeah, this was 18 years ago, and Blizzard said, nah, this looks too much like what's out there now. It's not going to sell. Cancel it.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it seems to me that it got to be the way it did because of Blizzard. Because the situation was the same as with Anthem, right? Where you've got some higher up who doesn't really know anything about what he's dealing with, and he's got to direct the project. He's got to manage it. He's got to establish a creative direction, things like that. And there you've got a development studio whose primary concern, or invariably ends up being, we need to churn out the next demo for the bosses before they come to inspect. Like that seems to be the scenario, because apparently there's like really inconsistent. It's not even consistently one genre. Like they apparently at successive shows and at successive demos had released the same level done as like Gears of War style and done as like Metal Gear Solid style. Because the people managing the project didn't know what they wanted. They just would decide on any given day that they felt a certain style was cool, and then they would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems like there was just no direction given to them, and they ended up, the deliverable, what was delivered in the end was just a disaster. It was just a mess. Yeah. And well, there was no choice but to cancel it, because they just mismanaged everything. It wasn't cancelled because the game had no potential, was no good. It was cancelled because they spent the entire lifespan of a console making it. So the 360 was about to release by the time they were sort of they had enough solid stuff cobbled together that a release date was in sight. So they would be releasing a last generation game by the time it was done. And it was simply because Blizzard had completely mismanaged the project.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you gotta have a first patch Xbox 360 to run this thing, or a OG Xbox, because of the way it's not done, basically.
Not finished.
It was supposed to be on the original Xbox, and so you need the original patch 360 if you want to use it on 360, and you have to have a way to burn an Xbox 360 disc with the right encoding with the data that runs the game.
Yeah.
And it's so yeah, it apparently isn't quite a complete build because 2 of the levels crash and just won't load. The data's there for them, but they don't load right. But yeah, the game is almost complete from what people put footage I've watched. Like there's all the cutscenes are there, fully voice acted. All the set pieces work properly. All the controls are there. The levels are done. It's just
not
Blizzard's like this is going to be bad if we release this.
Well, the thing is that it's a late in the lifespan Xbox game running on the 360.
Yeah.
It would have just gotten blown out of the water by the next action game to come along because it looks really dated.
It does, doesn't it? Like for
Yeah.
the 360, it looks dated. But when you see this though, and you think at least the old Blizzard had the goal to cancel the project at this point. Modern
They were
Blizzard
willing
wouldn't.
to. Yeah, Modern Blizzard wouldn't pull the plug, but
No, they'd cram it
They-
out the door, try and weasel an extra buck out of it.
Yeah, the thing the thing that strikes me about that is just how people take for granted how cynical Blizzard is now. Whereas before they were willing to give Blizzard an awful lot of credit. But now, like after the Warcraft 3 thing, the goodwill they had once upon a time is just completely evaporated. And so like people treat it as like sort of the viewpoint that people have towards Blizzard has just changed so drastically. Like everybody was on board once upon a time with Blizzard cancelling games and that. Like everybody was disappointed when Warcraft Adventures was cancelled and disappointed when StarCraft Ghost was cancelled, but they trusted that Blizzard had a reason for doing it.
From the Warcraft Adventures leak, that reason is very obvious. But
yeah, that leaked a few years ago, didn't it?
it did, and it was really quite bad.
Well, it's just
I
another
wonder-
case of them not knowing what they were doing, really.
It was a kind of an experiment that just didn't work, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, Thrall is no Guybrush Threepwood.
No, he really isn't. Yeah, stand around and be grumpy at everyone instead.
So yeah, that's a thing that happened.
Yeah, it honestly, just from the descriptions and little bits and pieces that are floating around, it just sounds like kind of a substandard Metal Gear game. Where
Yeah, and
some-
again, from everything that I've heard, that's just due to a total lack of direction. Like,
Yeah.
the genre devolved into grey paste because they were trying to be every game at once. Because
Feels-
Blizzard hadn't told them what game they wanted.
From what I'm gathering, it sounds like it was trying to be two games at once, particularly. Like, when you're against humans, you've got to be all sneaky and stealthy, but then the Zerg turn up and suddenly it's shooty bangings all day. Because you can't sneak past the Zerg. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a jarring change to go from stealth to gunning madness.
Yeah, well, the thing is that those were the two things that were popular at the time because everybody was like into Splinter Cell and Halo.
Yeah.
So, like, what are they going to do? They're trying to
too
break
like
into the
Living
console
Wallpaper.
market. That's unnecessarily judgmental.
So yeah, that's got out, and Blizzard seems to be going around at the moment. And if you can find a video showing what the game is actually like on YouTube, watch it while you can because it's going to be gone.
Yeah, I don't know. If I were Blizzard, I would just let all that stuff stand because they've got such a bad reputation for trying to cover things up already.
Badly.
It's just their stock is, and I mean that metaphorically, not literally. Their stock is deeply in the toilet right now.
Mm-hmm.
People don't value them. Blizzard has gone from a company which is broadly viewed as being on the gamers' side to broadly viewed as being an enemy like EA.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be this way. This is something they did to themselves.
Yeah. In some cases, it's out that people are viewing them worse than EA these days. So that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it really didn't have to be this way, but
Can we just go back and have the old Blizzard back, please? The Blizzard that actually cared. So yeah, That's that. What other little newslets do we have?
Newslets.
I know if I try and keep clicking off the game I'm streaming at the moment, lag something horrible.
So, Persona 5 Royal, it's getting decensored.
Yeah. Also,
Atlas been-
before we get to into that, I want to share a little bit of salt.
Oh,
I keep turning the news notifications off on my phone, but every now and again it turns itself back on. And it turned itself back on this time to announce that Persona 5 Scramble was released. And I got all excited until it turned out that it was only released in Japan.
oh,
But, yeah, the headline doesn't say that, does it? No.
no. That's not how journalism works.
Yes, it is. That is the golden standard of journalism these days.
The best joke in that No Man's Sky documentary that we pointed out a few times is he thought this would quell some of the media hype around the game, but that is not how journalism works. This is how journalism works. It's like, can you customize your characters? A little bit. Full customization confirmed in No Man's Sky.
Yeah, that's how journalism works. Which reminds me, by the way, they put out another patch in this last week where you can now grow your own starships, apparently.
Wait,
You
what?
have organic spaceships now.
You now have organic vat-grown spaceships. I have no idea how this works, and I think I might actually need to go and have a look.
What?
So yeah,
What?
I
What?
don't know. I mean, people were rather salty because the ships in that game look like they're supposed to be able to be edited and customized, but you can't. So now you got floating space whale type spaceships. I don't know. Anywho, where were we?
Persona 5 Royal is getting
Censored. They're cutting
there
a
are a
joke.
couple- So there's a couple of scenes where two incredibly gay stereotypes that is actually really funny show up and harass Ryuji.
Yeah.
They show up like somewhere between 2 and 4 times in the story for like all of 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And just basically try to do stereotypically gay things to Ryuji. So he has to run away from them while they chase him in a very effeminate manner with the super campy hand gestures while they're running and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a joke.
If you actually, the very last time that they appear, you can actually go and talk to them without Ryuji, and they're they're perfectly normal at that point. They're just doing it just to screw with Ryuji.
So
that's the joke.
So it's funny. And it's a little know-nothing in a game that's 90 plus hours anyway. So, but Reset Era and Twitter had a absolute fit over these things because they can't handle jokes that offend their political sensibilities.
No, I don't even think that that's the case. I think the case is that they spend their time looking for things that they can pretend offend them. I genuinely do not believe that any of them care about the things they care about. They know, however, that you can farm influence in these communities by pretending that that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of this is cognitive on their part. I think they just see something and their automatic reaction is just to about it.
I'm not suggesting that they are Machiavellian, but I do not think that their motivation at root is anything to do with the topic. I think that their motivation at root is what other people in their community think of them personally.
Yeah, well, it's a culture that's grown out of rewarding people for virtue signaling. And now we are getting censored video games because of it. Like Persona 5, big, huge game. You know, not the best Persona, but not the worst. Is getting its big Super D-Duper Mega Edition coming out.
Yes.
It's going to have a whole bunch of new content and more months to the game and et cetera, usual golden shenaniganery. And they're just going to completely either remove or amend these scenes from the game, so that they don't do the same type of campy gay portrayal they had in the original. And they're only doing it for the West. Japan gets it just fine.
Because of course it is.
Yeah. IGN reported that the aforementioned scenes of Persona 5 Royal are generally unchanged in the Japanese version. Generally unaltered.
I've heard it said that this sort of bizarre attempt to deconstruct media that people see is something that pretty much exists purely in the West,
Oh, it
and
does.
the Orient pretty much just gets really confused when they see it.
Yeah, like if they have someone who comes out and says, "Oh, they're gay" or whatnot, they don't give a toss.
No. That's not what I'm talking about at all.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm referring to.
Okay.
I'm referring to the idea that media has to be processed into a grey paste,
Yeah.
as opposed to being enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in the West and in Japan, the same solution to these people's problem exists already, but it requires them to take action, or in this case, not take action. Just don't buy the video game.
Just don't buy it. Don't watch it.
Yeah,
But
if this is a deal breaker for you, don't give them your money.
I think in other parts of the world, the idea that you could even interpret something like this as a purchase influencer is nonsensical. Because most places outside the modern liberal West are not attempting to completely cannibalize themselves in culture war.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is only in the West.
So
there's just no cultural cohesion anymore. This is the deconstruction that came out of that those schools of philosophy that developed in Central and Western Europe.
What the hell? Sorry, my cat just put his butt on the keyboard, and now I have big white borders around things. What on earth did he press?
What?
did he stop the recording?
No. There are... It doesn't matter what program or game you're playing, there are commands that exist that will only function if pressed by a cat.
I see. Well then.
I see.
I don't know. I don't get you cat owners. You let your cats literally walk all over you.
Well, sometimes you can't stop them. They do it anyway.
I would have cats, or I would have a cat singular, but I'm allergic to cats.
Yeah.
So I
But
cannot.
you have a
own cats.
dog. It's superior.
Dogs are,
Yeah.
in general, better. Cats are smug assholes.
Yeah.
Like, the cat will literally eat you if you die. In fact, it's one of the things they're famous for. Having zero loyalty to their owner.
Yes, they give zero cares.
But they're adorable.
They are cute. And that's why people keep them around.
They're pure
Tolerate
evil.
them. They are also evil.
Evil can be adorable.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they're not adorable. I'm saying they're pure evil.
Yeah.
So that is why cat owners exist, is because cats are cute.
Yes.
You should know this. You watch anime. So
It is why 90% of waifus exist.
So yeah. I am seriously tapping my foot about whether I'm gonna get Royal after this.
Yeah.
No, this is localization bullcrap. You become complicit as soon as you pay for a localization.
Yeah, I'm about as big of an SMT fan as you're going to find in the West, and this is making me hum and haw about buying this.
The thing is, the sad thing is that this isn't about SMT at all. This is about localization and the cancer on that industry in the West, where every single one of them is just looking to conform to some bizarre cultural standard that doesn't exist anywhere in the real world. Like, why farm influence with Reset Era if you're a company? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Reset Era is never going to buy your product. Reset Era is not a customer base for anybody.
Well, it's not only that, but the culture which objects to these types of things, they are not capable of forgiveness. You can't repent. You can't change your ways. You can't be forgiven. So why try?
Once the accusation is made, they're just going to re-accuse you of it, even if you 180 on it in your re-release. They're just going to say, "Oh, but this one time you said this about gay people."
That's how it works. Their religion does not have absolution in it. You cannot appease them. Any attempt to do so is just folly. You might as well just throw in your lot with the other side at that point.
I think a lot of people are waking up to this finally.
Yeah.
I think this is why we're seeing a lot of comedians especially give pushback on the left. Even far lefty super comedians are like, woke Twitter cancel culture is a really bad idea, you idiots.
Well, they're public figures. They know how badly it can affect them. And you've got people who were part of it and then got burned later and realizing what monster they've created.
Yeah.
Because there is nobody immune to it. It's just a matter of, who's going to be the last one standing.
Yeah, that goes double for comedians, really, because a lot of them are booked gig to gig. They're not rich. They don't get paid in advance like Hollywood actors do.
Man, I love Dave Chappelle.
I haven't seen Dave Chappelle do much lately.
Didn't he create a big furore with his latest set?
Yeah, he
Probably.
did. He spent, and it's really interesting watching Dave Chappelle because I think he's a good example of this. He went and tried to appease these people in one the special he did right before this, his most recent one, after he got called out for a quote unquote transphobic joke in the one that he did right before the one he made a apology in, and he did this pseudo apology in this set in this little bit he had, and tried to be semi-rational, as rational as a lefty can be on this kind of thing, and was like, "It's just a joke, people. I don't actually hate you. Y'all just really funny."
Talking sense? How dare you?
And then the left took this as an apology, and that was not enough. And they continued to blast him. And then his next special, he just made a joke about how all y'all people are horrible because you don't forgive anybody, basically. And the joke's hilarious. I'm bad at telling other people's jokes, but he goes, "So, if you don't do exactly what they say, you're going to lose your job." And he goes, "Who is that an impression of?" to the audience. And the whole audience shouts, "Trump, Trump." And he goes, "That's you." And he points at the whole audience.
Ha!
But if it was anybody who was less big in comedy than Chappelle, it wouldn't have flown.
But he broke the ice, and now other people are feeling more okay with saying it.
Yeah,
I don't have any more specific
but you see that makes me wonder though, like how many people had their career destroyed instead because they didn't have the critical threshold of being as big as Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, it's and regardless of what Netflix's executives and how woke they are think of that Dave Chappelle special, it did incredibly well.
Especially if you look at the sorts of comedians that they like to promote.
Yeah, the Netflix stand-up, they scrubbed all the good old stand-up and are just featuring new specials that are Netflix exclusives from these terrible comedians.
Yeah, it's like this is that fat blonde woman. I can't remember. They're mostly they're women who either talk about their vaginas or talk about their race and gender and sexuality.
But yeah,
like the popular one to rag on at the moment is Lily Singh. You see, there's a lot of people taking pot shots at her online, and I've seen some of her material, and it is 100% justified. I don't think she's ever told a funny joke in her life.
Oh, that explains some of the jokes from a real life friend I have called Lily. She will often say she doesn't sing. I get the joke now.
Yay, bad pun.
That's awful.
That is really bad.
I was wondering where she went with that, because I've never understood the joke.
Yeah, there's been a rather big upswing, particularly if you go to Netflix now and you try and watch a comedy special. Most of it is nowhere even near funny.
Yeah, no, you're drudging through garbage.
You can watch Gabriel Iglesias, and that's it.
It's just nobody's concerned with being funny in comedy right now. They're starting to break the ice because they're tired of it, but they're all concerned with being political pundits and commentators. I don't know what word I tried to say before commentators.
I don't know. Pundits.
Yeah. So that's all they're concerned about with these Netflix specials, because that automatically gets cheers and the media going, this is very thought provoking, and they just say it in a slightly funny voice.
Yeah,
that's all the same. That's all the comedy we've gotten is the Orange Man sure is bad, you guys.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating because like there were some comedians that I used to really enjoy their material. Like I thought Russell Peters had a lot of really funny stuff.
Mm.
All of his like 90% of the jokes he tells are racial jokes, right? But he's Indian, so he can do it. He's allowed to. Until they disqualify Indians and say they're white, which I'm sure is coming down the pike any day now.
Oh, it's already.
Yeah,
but,
it's
already
kind of a
here.
thing already.
But yeah, like he told a lot of racial jokes, and to be honest, I've always thought that jokes about racial stereotypes are just the funniest jokes ever. Like even though lots and lots of them target white people, Asians, and stuff. Like I've always thought that they're funny. Jokes about Asians are hilarious. Everybody, I think anybody who thinks that they're not funny is trying to convince themselves not to laugh. But all that aside, like his material was 90% that, and it's just since the election of Donald Trump, it's just all slid into Orange Man bad, like very gradually. He hasn't leaped head first into it like like a lot of comedians, and I think that the main reason for the comedians that haven't gone head first into it, I think the main reason is that they are successful comedians and they know that Orange Man Bad isn't funny. And in order because they know what is funny and what is not, which is what made them successful, they have throttled their slide into a bit of virtue signaling in each set rather than, making that their dominating cause.
Just enough to stop the
But I still don't need to hear it. Because I know that it's virtue signaling and it's preaching and it's not there to be funny. That's
and
the problem.
And most of their jokes aren't based in truth either. They will just flat lie to you about stuff that Orange Man has done and say, isn't this funny?
They're getting it from CNN.
Yeah.
and CNN is a media outlet of a certain variety producing certain content.
Namely Orange Man Bad.
Yes, evidently Orange Man is quite bad. But yeah, it's I'm pretty disappointed at seeing it happening because I always thought that comedians, like the purpose of the jester in the king's court was that he could say things about the king that nobody else was allowed to and not get executed. He was the release valve for people's displeasure with the royalty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what comedians are supposed to do. They're supposed to go against the grain. They're not supposed to, represent the forces of conformity.
Yeah, you don't just get up there and virtue signal for half an hour and say, oh, this is how a comedian works. Comedians work best when they're holding a mirror up to things. And making fun of things, and that's how they get people to think.
Yeah. And it really shows in the Chappelle skit just how fed up he is with this garbage. If you haven't seen the special, Fern, you should really go watch it.
Where is that on Netflix?
Yeah, it's the one where he looks like he's in a prison outfit.
Oh, okay. Well, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
I just remember just sitting there and watching the Chappelle show, and basically Chappelle was making fun of Rick James is the absolute funniest thing.
Yeah, I think it's called Sticks and Stones.
That sounds
yeah,
pretty.
I haven't watched the set myself. I've seen clips of it.
It has some, clearly left-leaning moments, but that's okay.
Well, he is a lefty. I would expect that his point of view is going to be in that direction.
Yeah, but it's okay. He's still funny, and he's not just trying to be a political commentator.
Yeah, I don't particularly think that there's much career longevity in the approach that they're taking.
No, there's really not.
I'm pretty sure that from everything that I've heard, it sounds like ratings are dropping across the board for comedians who decide that they're political commentators. Like it seems like a subtlety, and I'm not really sure of the details since I don't watch American television. But I feel like John Oliver and Jon Stewart and what's the other guy?
Stephen Colbert.
Stephen Colbert. It seems to me that they've pretty much dropped off the map.
Yeah, it used to be Jon Stewart and Colbert were kind of the go-tos for making fun of the news.
Well, even then,
but nobody talks about them anymore. Nobody posts clips of their show. Nobody is repeating their jokes. Like, they've pretty much vanished. They're non-entities now.
They both went full late night host, and they after that, right before that, they were slowly slipping. Because if you remember, during the Bush administration, the most they did to make fun of Bush really was make fun of how his face looked like a monkey face, which it did, and that's a legitimate.
But well, the thing is that Obama's face also looked like a monkey face, but they didn't say that.
but that's got some kind of racial connotation or something, so you can't say that. But they didn't ever really make fun of Obama. And then you just start going down from there. They're political, American political people who are making fun of the politics of the current time. And when the president suddenly became untouchable, and the most they gave him was a light love tap once in a while, compared to literally making fun of everything Bush did, you start the slip from there. And then Trump came. Then Trump happened. And this is going to be a phrase we use when describing the history of events in the 2000s to the 2010s a lot. And it's going to be, and then Trump happened. Because it just broke these people.
What I've basically observed, though, is that they used to be the people who got talked about all the time in terms of comedy, in terms of being sort of like the venue that people went to for satire, that sort of thing. But I don't hear anybody talking about them anymore. It doesn't seem to be a thing anymore.
They have completely fallen off the map.
Like, do they still have a show? Are they still broadcasting?
They're both late. I think they're both late night hosts still. They have their own late night show, but it's like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever.
Blah. Jimmy Kimmel is the absolute worst.
Yeah, nobody puts clips of them up anymore because what they do now isn't as funny. And I guarantee you they have way less viewers and listeners than they did back when they had their own show. Like, Colbert could be genuinely funny sometimes, back when it was like the Bush era. But he ain't funny no more.
Didn't have to be this way. Like, people talk about Trump derangement syndrome, and I gather that they used to talk about Bush derangement syndrome as well. But it's really like it was a tongue-in-cheek thing. Right, the idea that there's a mental condition that causes you to obsess over President Trump, but the way he seems to live rent-free in their heads, really makes me think.
If you do not believe that TDS is a thing, you have it. That's about the only way to really describe it, because it's evident that TDS is a real quantifiable phenomenon that has infected the majority of the U.S. population, and pushes this whole culture and leads back to our original topic, this censorship garbage.
Yeah, but it's, in terms of where we're going, though, I normally am not, a bit lukewarm on boycotts, but I've had enough of this localization crap. I really have. Like, it's not even about the wokeness. I think that localizers who do the writing for the localization, they are not artists. They are bureaucrats. They are functionaries. They are supposed to translate. I do not believe that they have a right to leave any kind of artistic impression whatsoever. You should not be able to detect the touch of a localizer on a script, in my opinion.
The most that they should really be allowed to do, and this is more than most people will give them, and I think the argument against it is really poor, but I hear it all the time, is they should be allowed to rearrange sentences, wording, and paragraph structure, and sometimes whole paragraphs if necessary, to make it fit better into an English-speaking audience. But the content should all remain mostly there.
I don't really agree, because the thing is, that would be true if the people who were doing the writing were writers, but they worked for localization companies because they couldn't make it as writers. Therefore, their opinion on how the sentence should be arranged or rearranged is, as far as I'm concerned, not valid. Because if they were any good at that, they would be doing it for a living.
I don't agree, because you'll wind up getting direct Japanese translations a lot, and that can sound very stonewally in English. And
No,
I
don't agree. I don't agree with that either. I think that's just that's largely a bias that has been propagated by people who think that localizers should be able to exercise creative control over the script. Because I've read plenty of translations that were done almost entirely directly, and there is no missing link between direct translation and people who have completely ransacked the script. Those localizations don't exist. They haven't existed for decades because there is no demarcation point due to the way the people populating the market are. The thing with translation is that if you can't make it as a translator for real things like financial documents, technical manuals, that type of thing, like I have a guy who's a friend at high school who does that, and he doesn't do it for games because games is where the dregs of the translation industry goes, and it's also where the dregs of the writing industry goes. People who couldn't get that novel of theirs published, people who couldn't write well, they go and they end up in localization because they think of themselves as writers who are adapting a script. There is no talent in that industry who do localization the right way. There's just none of them left. They're extinct. And it's all because they've got this delusion that they're clever writers. They're not clever writers. What you say about rearranging a sentence, that might be valid. I don't think it's as valid as you think it is, because I've read plenty of these things, and honestly, it's just a matter of tone. It's a cultural gap which should be bridged by learning about the culture, not by converting it into Americanisms. And the what you think of as rearranging a sentence, there is no localizer who stops at that anymore, and there hasn't been for years. They all think that they're writers. They will not rearrange a sentence. They will simply adapt it to say what they think the sentence says. None of them are rearranging anything. They're rewriting it.
Well, that's the reason this is presented as a hypothetical, rather than a thing they should be able to do if the industry was not toxic. But it does go back to a structural problem with the idea of localizers and translators in general, where the people that wind up in this particular position for media will be the bottom of the barrel. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it works.
And apparently that particular industry is also ridiculously incestuous. Much like a lot of parts of gaming, it's all, people employing their friends and hopping from company to company and back again type of thing. So these people, they grot around in there and they build up a lot of influence, and they make themselves indispensable by having lots of people that owe them favors and so on and so forth. You've seen a little glimpse into the way the voice acting industry works and how sordid it is through the Vic Mignogna debacle. Yeah. And it's exactly the same in games localization. There's no difference. In fact, it's worse because the level of stress on average is higher.
Well, not the only reason, but the reason I much permission for that particular profession, if it was not corrupt, and would like it to have it, to make those kind of changes to a script, is because I've seen the kind of effort that goes into a real proper translation, especially after reading the Trails in the Sky localization notes, and how much effort and work the Xseed guys put into it. And that works because Xseed actually loved the product, and everybody there wanted the product to come out as authentic and good as they could. But I understand what you're saying. The industry is not like that fantasy world. It's not tenable right now. But
I don't even consider Trails to be a gold standard. I consider it to be a freak accident.
But
I don't even think it's reasonable to try and aim for that.
But seeing what they can do and seeing their discussions of how does this even work, what tone are they going for, this sentence doesn't work at all with what we're going for here in English. How can we minimally change it or rearrange the words to get it to fit better? Stuff like that. And you see notes and discussions between 3 or 4 or 5 people working on the script in this Excel document making comments. about their opinions and why they think one thing will work and one thing won't. And it's clear there was effort put into this, not for the sake of rewriting or putting their stamp on it, but for making a better product.
And I consider that to be a freak accident because it just doesn't happen. Even XC doesn't trot that out consistently. Even within the Trails franchise, you don't see it done consistently.
Well, not since got brought in, especially not since Nisa got him.
It's just the talent pool is too distorted. It's not comprised of people who love their work. It's comprised of people who love an ideal, and that ideal is themselves as a writer or themselves as an activist or something like that. It's not about somebody who loves the product. And that's just that, this is the unfortunate side effect of capitalism, is that sometimes the market forces the wrong people into the job and then they get stuck there because they've built up enough cronies to keep them there.
Well, if we shot unions in the face, then they wouldn't have anything to protect them.
Honestly, unions do propagate a lot of the stuff. Like, they're not the cause of it, but they cause it to become cemented. They stop the market from being able to purge these things naturally.
Yeah,
the financial disincentives of turfing out bad workers suddenly become too high.
Unions are great when they're needed, but when they're not needed, they just cause a lot of damage.
The only way a union could work is if they didn't exist before they were needed, and they didn't exist after they were needed.
Exactly.
They would need to form and then immediately disband. You could not have any organizational structure. You couldn't have any organizational structure perpetuated between incidents. That would be too dangerous, because then you get these things like, I think that the best example is probably the United States of America Teachers Union.
Yeah, no government should recognize a union. It should be solely the issue of that company to resolve that union's problems. But we're getting into political beliefs now.
You mean you went before?
Well, these are a bit deeper, more thought-provoking political beliefs on how economies work than making fun of bad comedy, which, if you think the current comedy on Netflix is good, you're lying to yourself.
Oh, yeah, it's awful. There's maybe one or two comedians in there that are actually good. Not counting Chappelle, actually, because I think that's still a one-off thing. But, yeah. Just the last time I looked at anything other than Chappelle or Iglesias or someone along those lines, just wow. I think the last one I actually looked at, I turned off after maybe 5 minutes because it was immediately, walked up on stage and said, well, about white people. That's not funny immediately.
I mean, it can be.
It can be, but you just know when you hear someone open like that, if they get the tone wrong, you know they're going to go off on some sort of racist rant.
I don't know. I think you should be able to make all the jokes about whatever race you want, including white people.
But tone is important. Anyway.
So, what you call it? That's
let's get on something that's a bit less angry making.
Yeah, somebody's going to get mad over our stance on unions.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like we said they were useless, just that they're dangerous.
No, I said you should put unions out of their misery and take them behind the shed. But
use them when they're needed, but after that, then they just need to sit around and try and justify their own existence. And that's when the trouble starts.
So anyway. we have one more newslet, and it's in the rumor mill because we literally had nothing.
This is going to be a very red flag show already, so...
Yeah, a very red-pilled show, hopefully.
Well, a bit of that, too.
So, we have good old Brian Hansford, the mocap dude and voice actor for V from DMC5, may have accidentally pulled a Dan Southworth. So, he tweets, absolutely pumped for the next hashtag Capcom Versus game. New characters could be very interesting, very in all caps, ellipsis. At this time, Capcom has not announced a new game in the Capcom Versus series, or Versus Capcom for the title.
Yeah.
And Capcom might have poked him on the shoulder and been like, "My dude,
Ahem.
the fudge." And so he has to delete that tweet and retweet, "Let me be 100% clear. I have no knowledge of any new Capcom game." Or, why am I reading this in Obama's voice?
Why are you doing that? Stop
Of
it,
any new
please.
Capcom games, or the potential of what any of those games may entail. This tweet was about me being a big fan / seeing an Instagram ad about Capcom characters again. Please understand, I am in no way teasing or revealing info.
My lawyer made me say this.
It even includes a source for why he might have done it, and it's total BS untraceable. So there's a new...
Now, please take the lawyers away.
Yeah, so everybody thinks the first Capcom game's in the works.
Yeah, I hope they do have another one in the works, because their last one was an abomination. Bad doesn't even begin to describe how Infinite was.
Everybody that talks to me about Capcom Infinite, they tell me the gameplay is great, it's wonderful, I like playing the game, everything's ugly.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, everything's ugly.
And the soundtrack is bad.
And to quote Combo Fiend, just a bunch of functions. You don't need
I'm
characters.
astonished that he actually said that. Like, how tone deaf do you have to be?
He should know better, too. His whole shtick when he was a fighting game player instead of a big member of the community was that he played Spencer from Bionic Commando in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And he put Spencer on every team and was really good with him when he's a D-tier character.
Oh, dear.
So he should know, Magneto's not just a function. Magneto's Magneto. You can't have curly mustache memes without Magneto.
I'm still not sure what they were thinking with the mustache.
I don't know, it's Yipes. Yipes is
Magneto
insane.
has a mustache?
No.
No.
I don't understand.
But somebody photoshopped a mustache on him and he looked like the Pringles guy.
Yeah.
Yes, he would, but...
And so Magneto got associated with curly mustache and Pringles.
Because
It was
the fighting game
2004
community
internet.
is weird.
It was 2004 internet, what do you want?
It's weird. It's just
in
weird.
2004 internet, what was happening in 2004 internet? The
It was
Llama
16
song,
years ago.
the Badger song.
I thought the Badger song was sooner than that.
It was. But people were still circulating it because the flow of memes was not so fast.
True that.
Yeah, memes had a much longer life cycle back in the 2000s.
Now it's, you have a meme for a week. That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, I found Brian's response to this the most manufactured thing in the world. Somebody clearly told him exactly what to say.
Yes. Please send help. The lawyer has a gun to my head.
If you want to ever work in this town again, here's what you need to say.
So it's so funny. The nature of this tweet technically covers everything that a company would want you to actually say, but all it does, because it hits literally every single point, is further make the rumor more credible.
He's sitting in a plain chair reading it off a piece of paper.
Just as planned. No, he's reading it. He's reading it on camera, facing into a camera, blinking SOS in Morse code.
He's reading it from the little poetry book that V carries around. It's like paper clipped inside.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, so yeah, and this is not the first time that Devil May Cry mocap voice actor has accidentally had a boo boo. People are saying he's pulling a Dan Southworth because Dan Southworth, the voice actor and mocap dude for Virgil, did the same dang thing for DMC5.
He too.
Except he said it at a panel.
Yeah.
So they have a habit of accidentally letting slip, which is given Dan Southworth, Brian Hanford, and Dave Rubin, not Dave Rubin, Ruben Langdon, other Ruben.
The other one.
The one that's not gay.
Yeah, the one that's not gay. Well, he might be for all we know.
He's kind of weird.
Yes.
He are all off the wall, kooky, fun-loving people. that love to like drive around in foreign countries and get shot at and laugh on Instagram they activated Royal Guard. These people are a little off the wall to begin with.
But he's got a reputation for being strange, though.
Which one?
Ruben.
Oh yeah, they all are a little nuts. So, and we love that about them, but they are crazy. So you're going to get them saying things like this without thinking sometimes. And it's just, Capcom just seems to have accepted that this is the kind of people they just got to work with if they want these same people voicing and doing the mocap for these characters.
Well, I mean, can you imagine what would happen though if they? Well, you don't need to imagine. It's happened before that they got rid of Ruben's Dante.
Yeah, people would drop kick Capcom.
Yeah,
which they did.
They did. That was a mistake, Capcom, and I hope you learned your lesson. Well, actually, they did learn that lesson.
Yeah, that's why they brought back the actual Devil May Cry.
It's like, we're sorry we made your character into an emo little millennial, Ruben. Please come back. Show us what cool is again.
Okay.
He probably shouted wahoo.
Yeah, he probably did. Anything else for the news? I don't think there really is.
So news light. My goodness, why did nothing happen this week?
I mean, what else? The only other thing I think of note is a game that I didn't know I wanted before, which is a game about Warhammer orcs in planes.
Daka Squadron.
I mean, you call it Daka Squadron. What else would you call it? I mean, the fact that half of the planes are already on fire when you take off. The game looks absolutely insane and nonsense.
It's going to be terrible, though. That's the thing.
It is probably going to be awful. Like, most Warhammer games are bad. Just out of the box, they're bad. And every now and again, you'll get a game where lightning strikes and you'll end up with a good game.
I don't know what it is about Games Workshop and making sure only the worst people get a hold of their IPs.
I don't know. Maybe they just give it out to anyone who asks.
No, they absolutely don't, and that's the problem. Like they are very they're like Disney level obsessive over protecting their IP.
That they are.
Except that they have no taste when it comes to studios to farm it out to, so they do really weird things. Like they're making like a children's version of 40K, like an animated thing or something.
Okay.
That makes about as much sense as it sounds. Yes.
I mean, it could be hilarious, but it probably won't be. It'll probably be awful. Hello, children. We're here to tell you all about exterminating the filthy Xenos. No,
I don't think that they're allowed to, though. They're just going to be friends.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
They're going to try to be friends with the filthy Xenos until the God Emperor wakes up and calls them all horrible names.
The other thing is that they've cancelled like a gajillion different projects in the past as well. Like,
yeah, they
Games
have.
Workshop cancels more projects than Blizzard. It's ridiculous.
Some of them actually kind of sounded good on paper too.
Very few of them ever make it to see the light of day.
Yeah. What are some of the good ones we've had? The original Dawn of War was great for all the wrong reasons. Like, okay, it was a competent RTS, but what really made it was just the sheer levels of ham in that game. Not the balance. Certainly not the balance.
I liked it, though. I felt like it conveyed a lot about 40K quite well.
Yes. Just complex armies, ham, lots of shouting. Complete nonsense story. What's not to love? You had... I think we had Space Marine was a fairly decent one, where you end up playing as one of the Ultramarines.
It was all right.
It was okay.
It was all right. There was nothing about it that I felt was like wall banger bad, but I also didn't really stick to it very long, despite being quite fond of 40K. I never finished it.
No, I didn't finish it. I got about halfway through it.
I stuck to it roughly as long as I stuck to Fire Warrior.
Yeah, I didn't play Fire Warrior.
Yeah, you're not missing much. It was extremely It was an extremely bad Halo clone. I feel like I'm being too judgmental about it. It was like they hopped onto that trend of using the Halo health system that was so popular at the time, where you've got recharging shield layer and then health underneath.
Yep.
They got a few things about 40k pitch perfect in a way not many others had managed to do so. Like for instance, scale.
Mm-hmm.
They did scale very well. Everything was really huge, and things were on scale in the way they should have been. Like you play as a fire warrior, tower fire warrior, firecast warrior, so you're roughly the size of a normal human being. And there are two popular renditions of the bolt gun that appear throughout media. One of them is an M4. It behaves like an M4.
Yep.
Pretty much. And the other one is the one that they showed in Fire Warrior, which is the more accurate one, where it is to a human-sized person, it is a very unwieldy rocket launcher. Which is the way that they're supposed to be. And so it's a sort of, and its idea of rapid fire is about as rapid fire as you can get out of a rocket launcher. And it's got a really sort of, they did a lot of good work with getting things like that to match the fluff. So it really thunders like a small scale rocket launcher rather than like an automatic weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's and so it has a lot of good things in it. The problem was that, and overall, the game was just kind of banal.
Yeah.
It had the tone right, but it didn't set itself apart in any way. The storyline was not good enough for anybody to remember. The gameplay was not good enough for anyone to remember. The only things that it did well was a sort of the minutia that people who really geek out over 40k like to see done right. And I think that the highlight among that was, as I've mentioned, the weapons. Like, it's the first time that and only time that you will ever get an Imperial Guard las gun in a game, and it will actually feel like a weapon as opposed to a flashlight.
Yes.
It's still a bad weapon within the scope of the other things, but you know, it feels like it could actually harm a person. And when you're rolling those strength 3 shots with 0 ability to pierce armor, like it very much does feel like a flashlight on the tabletop. But they actually managed to convey how it is in the fluff with the Fire Warrior game. But it was just not enough to redeem a game that was so thoroughly mediocre.
Yeah. What else have we got? There's a bunch of games like Space Hulk and things like that. They try to recreate.
Space Hulk.
They try to recreate
Hulk.
the board games, and that's actually pretty bad in a video game. You don't do that.
Yeah, it's not. There was a really old Space Hulk game, and then there have been new renditions of Space Hulk.
Yeah, but
the old one for its day, from what I've heard, was actually pretty good.
Yeah, for its day.
But its day was like 1994 or something.
Yeah. But the new one, like, it just feels flat and boring. There's a lot that goes on when you're playing it as a board game, particularly with other people, that you just don't get playing it single player in a one-to-one recreation on the PC. And that's other people.
Yeah, I don't know why that seems to be a thing, that people try and translate board games directly into video games. It seems like a poor play, generally speaking, because the two things are different mediums, and they're different mediums for a reason.
Yeah. Like, it can work, but generally doesn't.
Yeah. I've seen it. There seems to be a sort of a small cult following for Gladius.
Yeah, Gladius, as well as Battlefleet Gothic, has a fairly solid fan base as well.
I don't know to what extent it is because of quality or in spite of lack of quality. But
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. It could go either way. But there've been so many attempts to do 40k in all manner of different genres, and most of them, you're lucky if anybody remembers them. Everybody remembers Dawn of War for a reason, and that's because it sticks out as actually being playable.
Space Marines.
Did the MMO style of thing ever get released? Did that happen in the end?
The 40k MMO?
Yeah,
No, I think that one got canned.
because I know that people were playing it, but I don't know if it ever made it out of beta.
Yeah, I don't think it did.
It was structured in a really strange format that was kind of like they had orcs with a free to play race, and you had to pay for access to the other ones and stuff like that.
Here we are. Eternal Crusade. What are we dealing with here? Nah. You can play as Orcs, Eldar, Chaos, or Space Marines. Third person shooter. I mean, it looks like it could be okay, but
That was in development for a very,
I think it is actually out of
very
beta at the
long
moment.
time.
Now that they've got a whole bunch of different weapon packs and things you can buy separate now. Not that that's necessarily a cause.
It was in development for like a decade.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know when it actually came out.
Like graphically, it looks like it's been in development for a decade. What's this? An iGuard who is not immediately a thin paste? iGuard and actually accomplishing something? Heresy.
But yeah, I've heard that that there's some pretty significant, or historically I'd heard that there were some pretty significant systemic problems with the way it was set up.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of things that were like ridiculously exploitable.
I'm wondering why anyone would want to play as anything other than the Orcs.
From what I understand, it's one of those games that was sort of like a decent concept, but embedded in a cynical, money hungry shell.
Yeah.
Which I don't know who to blame for that these days, because it's almost like that's part of the gatekeeping on games development, is that you need to find a way to as cynically monetize your game as possible in order to get somebody to actually publish it.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll see a change in the winds with the success of that new Star Wars game, whatever it was called.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we've had EA have a success. Now they've got to have an abject failure. That's just their pattern.
Yeah. Don't know what it'll be though. But I mean, it's like we get these proofs of concept, right? Standalone games that are successful, like Monster Hunter, like Devil May Cry, like these still become smash hits even in a world where they are the only ones who aren't obsessing over monetization systems. But I don't think anybody's willing to really take that on board. They don't want video games as a medium to quote regress unquote into being an artisan sort of sector anymore.
Yeah.
That would be bad for them. There's no quick money in making a good video game. There's no quick money in making a complete video game.
Yeah, I mean, I'd settle for complete.
Yeah, complete would be nice. Oh, great. What do you want, Doggo?
I hear Doggo.
Which means that's probably time to end the show. We've actually hit time, so that happened.
Yeah, but we're also going to get banned from YouTube, so...
I mean, I'm surprised.
Probably my fault. Probably my fault this time. Oh, man. So, y'all got anything else, or I'll send this to closing comments?
No, I think I've done today.
It's kind of hard for me to rag on game quality when I've been playing an incredibly bad game this entire time.
Yeah, you kind of don't have a leg to stand on with that one at the moment.
And it's got waifus in it.
But it's awful.
It's true. It is awful.
I mean, okay, it's Compile Hearts, and most of their games are pretty awful, but they're still dumb and fun.
Just for you, Serathos, I dug around in my memes folder while we were talking about Devil May Cry and dropped a Doom Dante crossover meme I found.
That's a thing? Oh, wait, internet. Of course it exists.
It's about to say, what internet do you live on? Everything's a thing.
Everything is a thing. All right. Take us out.
All right, folks. We will see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.